I'm getting on the road on a mission to bring light to the lives and work of youth developers across the country. And it all starts here in my new hometown of Orlando. Today, I'm heading to Whispering Oak Elementary in Winter Garden, kicking things off with Mr. Montgomery. This is just the beginning. What would you like to see change in this field?
I think I'd like to see the respect level change.
Okay.
And I don't mean for the people within it, the people that do the job. There's an immense amount of respect among that small family of educators. I think outside perception of what we do, I mean, unless you're in this job, it's very hard to look at it from an outside perspective and really get the nuances of it. If you look at educators from an outside perspective, it's like, oh man, what are you guys complaining about? You get June, July, and August off, and you get full summers and all these days off and vacation, and that's true. But for every one of those days, there's a lesson plan to be written, or there's a student in need, or there's a parent with a situation. And, we give so much that I think I'd like to see the respect of what we actually do change, because you have parents whose, children you've made a difference for, and, they go out and say, oh, if it wasn't for the school or this teacher, my child wouldn't have done X, Y, Z.
Yes.
And you get a thank you on occasion. But in general, education and developing kids is not always seen as the most important thing. It gets buried in the news, or if you hear about it, it's, test scores or budget cuts, or, we're dismantling this or that. And, it's all the negative about it. And so I think if anything, I'd like to see perceptions of what we do change, and the attitude toward educators and education in general, become one more positive, and put as much emphasis on that as we do, egg prices or whatever else.
The number one day-to-day activity for me as a principal is to get out in the building, try to get out and see students every day, try to get out and see staff every day.
To walk around.
I call it management by walking around. Because if I'm out in the building and I'm in the classrooms and I'm with our teachers, I see and hear the instruction. I can see and hear what the students are responding to.
Yep.
And just that visibility where they know you're there and you're part of it.
Your career started before principal? How did you start?
I started as a teacher, actually, in language arts teacher, 6th grade, up in Jacksonville, actually. And I taught 6th grade and 7th grade for 2 years there, and then moved here and to Central Florida, and then began teaching middle school. I was at Apopka Middle School. And I taught there for about 7 years.
Okay.
And then I had ran the after school program. We had Boys and Girls Club, and one of my colleagues was our dean, and he was leaving to pursue a different job. And unbeknownst to me, he recommended me to be the dean. So then I get a call from our principal and said, hey, I'd like you to be our dean. So that kind of started the administrative path. I wasn't really looking for it, but I guess I was the right person for the job. Then I had a great mentor who said, you'd be a really good assistant principal. And so I thought about it, and then, I went back to that. I decided I wanted to do that. So I went back to school and earned an ed leadership degree, and then pursued that. And then that became, principalship later on. And that's kind of how I evolved into this.
Got it. So from a teacher to a dean to assistant principal to principal.
Correct.
Love that journey.
One is be sure that's what you really want to do, because it is a lot of work, and at times it can feel like the loneliest spot in the world. And secondly, just have a clear vision of the kind of leadership you want to bring, because that makes a difference as well.
Yeah.
And then just trust the people around you, and surround yourself with people that are good at many different things. So together, collectively, you can build the team, because you won't have all the answers, even though you're expected to. So that's about the best thing I could say, is just, make sure you really want to do it, and then if so, build the best possible, team to help you do it.
Absolutely. Together, everybody achieves more. I know it sounds corny, but it's absolutely true.
No, it's true. It really is. I mean, and that's some of the biggest successes I've had. You as principal, you get credit when things are going well. Great job, your school, and I never accepted, because it's not my school. It's our school.
Yep.
And yes, I had the leaders. I'm the leader there that put things in place that hopefully were successful.
Yeah.
But it's a team. I'm just one piece of that.
Yeah.
I'm not the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Which position did you have the most fun as a teacher, dean, assistant principal, or principal? Where are you having more?
There's different levels of fun with all of them, despite people think principal be fun, which it is, when I get to go read to classes, or, sing and music, or, some of those funny things that I do to entertain students and be part of it. I probably had more fun as a teacher, because I was designing lessons with my classes in mind, and really knew the personalities of just those few classes I taught here. As principal, you have 800 students and to manage, as opposed to your 40 that you had in your classroom. So it's a little bit different, but now I had a little more fun with that, because it was language arts, and there's a lot we could do with that as a subject to make it fun. A lot of it was writing, and students hate to write. So coming up with fun things to write about, or creative things that they could do, that was kind of fun.
Yeah, so you're tapping into your creative bug, or your creative side, which is, I know it's important to you.
It is, being creative is something everybody can do. Even though many think they can. We all have different abilities. Some it's athletic. I never had any of those. Probably the worst athlete ever. Even though I worked hard to make the teams I was on, that just wasn't what my talent was. And, I was more on the creative side, or the art side. But all kids like to draw, or they like to write, or they like to, you tap into that. There's something creative that everybody could do. Sometimes they love it, and sometimes they're reluctant, but then when they do it, that's the joy of teaching, is getting somebody to do something they didn't think they could.
Yeah, they get surprised because it went through the whole experience, and they got shocked, like, hey, I am good at this. They find their spark through experiment. Since we were talking about fun and creative, what is some of the things that you do to continue to play as an adult?
At school, some of the things I do, I mean, we have dress up days, and where we have, our Hawaiian shirt days, or we do count day, dress up as a book character. I participate in those, and those events, and, go to classes and participate with students with reading and science experiments, and all those fun things that they like to do, that they enjoy showing you. Personally, I just like to have fun when I'm not in school. I like to play a lot of music.
Do you play an instrument?
I play guitar some.
Okay.
And I enjoy tinkering around with that. And just, trying to just joke around a lot, and you just have to laugh. So make a lot of jokes. Some of them are dad jokes, and they're very bad, but
I love it. Maybe you should come to my morning show to share a dad joke. That would be great.
Yeah, sometimes.
You have one right now? What's one of your favorite dad jokes?
I mean, one I used to tell like my own personal kids is when they were arguing or wanted to say, what's for dinner? What's for dinner? Where are we going? I would always say, we're going to Joe's. And they'd be Joe's, and I'd be Joe Mama's. Yeah.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah, I didn't say it was good, but
I'm all about the corny jokes because
yeah,
that's life.
just silly things like that. Because you have to. There's
Yeah.
so much that this career is very stressful. Life is very stressful. And I learned a long time ago not to bring it home with me. It's hard not to sometimes, but when I go home, I like to have fun and just and I like to make other people laugh and have a good time.
Yeah. What's something that you're doing right now that's impacting your scholars, your children?
I think encouragement and being present is the biggest thing. When we just took our writing exams, so prior to that, they were writing a lot. So going in the class and reading it and giving them feedback and, just being a different set of eyes, because we know their parents are proud of them, their teachers are proud of them. So I think just going in and give them that encouragement and then having that conversation about the work too. Even though I've seen the standards and I go in there and I know I've taught their teacher, I know what they're going to teach. The students don't know that. So, I get them to explain it to me. What are you guys working on? What are you And we have that conversation. And I think so encourage them to explain and tell me what they're doing and share their work. I think that's probably one of the best things I can do for them is to be an audience because they have someone to explain it to. And then they know that you care about it. They're like, wow, you really want to know about my work, what I'm doing. So it builds that relationship, but it gives them that confidence too.
For sure. Like to have a principal wanting to listen. And I love that you said the word encouragement because I know in my upbringing, I didn't have much of that. I actually don't even remember my principals growing up. Do you remember your principals?
No. I mean, mainly, you're right. It was a different era of education. You just went to school, you went to class, you'd see the principal and you knew your principal, but rarely did they come to your class or you might see them in the hall or something. And it's, that era's kind of changed. I don't want students to fear the position. I don't want them to be like, there's a healthy respect you want them to have, but I want them to feel encouraged and comfortable, and they need to know this is a safe place and that not only their teachers care about them, but I care about them. And I'm here for them to create that different kind of environment.
Since we were talking about our principals growing up, who would you say are some of your mentors, whether they're alive or not, like Elvis?
Yeah, anybody knows me knows that's an obvious one. The Elvis connection. I said, well, how do you equate that to being a principal? And that story is really just, growing up, I was the only child, so I had brothers or sisters, and we moved around a lot. And so I had a lot of time, to listen to music and things. And I just remember being really young and seeing him on television, and it was a Aloha from Hawaii, looked like a superhero with his outfit, and it was just like, wow, and just the music, it's just a refuge for me. I just always admired him, and he could be anything. He could sing and be cool, and I thought that's, you had to go through life.
I love that.
And so that, that's a personal, just makes me happy, the music and Elvis as an icon just for me personally. And then other things with that, mentors. I've had good professional role models. I've got some great colleagues now currently that we call and encourage and support each other. I was very fortunate when I was learning to be an administrator that I had really good role models. All the principals that I worked with were beneficial and gave me a lot of opportunity. to learn and to grow. And, I always kind of wanted to pay that forward as well. That was kind of the trade-off. It's like, we're training you, and once you get in this position, we hope you'll do the same for other people.
Paying it forward.
So it's always, paying it forward and coaching. A lot of the folks that I've coached or mentored have gone on to become, principals or successful. I mean, granted, they did 90% of it themselves, but that little 10% where I could help them, there's that pride in knowing that, I can do that and pass that on to someone else.
Yeah, for sure. Any mentors from maybe authors or other people? Because I guess my next question will be the books that you've read that actually had a really big impact, personally and professionally.
Personally, I read a lot of biographies.
Okay.
Usually music. That's my favorite hobby to look at. And a lot of that's just because that's a passion I follow, music. A lot of literature, because that was my major in school, and writing. No really specific authors, because there's probably too many to name. I don't have really one specific impactful book that I read. As far as that goes, there's one that I enjoyed. It's called Toy Box Leadership. And it fits my personality to a T, because it's literally about all the toys that we grew up with that you can learn leadership things from.
Okay.
For example, like a slinky dog. It just looks like a toy, but it has to navigate different obstacles.
I love. You have one here?
It has to bounce back and those kind of things. The Green Army Men, that I think kids still play with. You learn strategy because you move them around. You learn, characters because you do voices for them and different things. And, they represent resilience, because those things are hard to destroy unless you hit it with
you have a dog.
Yeah, a dog or a lawnmower. My dad used to step on them all the time because I'd hide them around the house and forget where I put them. So Legos, because it's building and connection and things like that. And, I've used some of these examples with staff, and we've done some staff developments where all that stuff was on the table, and they were like, is he making us play again? And then we get to the end of it, and they're like, "Oh, that makes so much sense." So that was kind of as far as a leadership book, that was kind of a powerful one.
Yeah. Who's the author of that book?
I can look on my shelf and tell you.
Yeah, it's okay. I can look it up too.
I don't have it. It's literally right behind me. And another one is there was a book called Culturize by a man named Jimmy Cassis, and I had the pleasure of meeting him at a conference. And that book I've used a lot here, because it's all about culture and how to build a positive culture, and how to do. There's little things that can make a big difference. It's kind of the premise of the book. Things we take for granted. As I mentioned, just management by walking around, being out and about. Just your presence can be a difference. You say hello to the one student who had a bad morning, and it turns their day around. Or staff, or it could be staff.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. And another thing I learned from that was, taking the time to listen and to actively listen. You
Big
can
difference.
sit and listen and go, yeah, great, all right. And the person leaves, you're like, I have no idea what they're saying. Because you're not tuned into them.
Yeah.
So to really actively, fully engage and listen to people. And a lot of times I've learned that you don't have the answer to their problem, but they just need somebody to vent to or to come to. And, if coming and venting or talking to me for 30 minutes makes them feel better about whatever they're dealing with, great if I help them. If not, at least I helped them because they were able to share.
Yeah.
And so I learned that was a powerful message as well. So
yeah,
that's a good book.
I'm looking forward to reading it.
It is, and a quote on that leadership that I took, because when I was growing up, I'm going to show my age on your video. President Reagan was president at the time. And we were all kids, and there was a whole lot going on back then, similar to now, Russia and the United States and all that. But, one thing he said one time, we had to watch a speech for a class, and we're like, oh, we got to watch the speech. But someone asked him during that, how are you so successful and do what you do? And he said, it's not that I'm so successful. He goes, I just surround myself with people that are smarter than me with a lot of areas, and collectively, we make things happen.
Yes.
And I've always adhered to that. That was a very powerful quote.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorites, because I found it to really probably be the most true thing that as far as a quote I've heard.
Yeah.
Because I've done that, and that's helped me stay successful. We're broken down into cadres, which are up with other groups of principals from different schools. And there are like 11 of us in each group. And so having this, and we meet pretty much every month. We talk almost daily through our text chains or different things. Sometimes it's funny to encourage each other when things are getting tense, like now, like the budgets come out, it's like, ooh. So having that peer network, because leadership's a very lonely job. They say it's lonely at the top, and you don't really understand that until you get there, because you're expected to have all the answers and make all the decisions, and pretty much what everybody needs, you need to supply it, whether you're equipped to or not. And so to have colleagues that are going through that same thing, it helps, because you can talk, well, how did you handle this? Or, what would you do when this happens? And then sometimes there is no answer, and we just laugh about it. But just having that. Then at home, I'm very blessed. I have a very, very strong, personal life with my family, my sons. I have a phenomenal girlfriend that supports me and helps me, stay grounded.
We talked about quotes, mentors, and books. What will be your life philosophy? Like something that you stand by, either now or since you were a child?
I think the biggest thing is very simple, but it's true. And I found the older I got, the more true it is life's too short. And to have regret or coulda, shoulda, woulda kind of thoughts. And you just need to enjoy life and, take every moment as it comes and find joy in as much of it as you can. Yeah. And the older I've gotten, I've learned that, because I didn't always do that when I started out. Work was the thing, and I had to work, and then after a while, it's important work we do as educators, but it's not the most important part of life. That's getting out and enjoying life, because we're not promised the next day, and we need to enjoy it. So I think just finding joy and enjoying life, that's just kind of where I'm at in this phase of my career and my own rapidly growing middle age. It's about finding that joy.
For sure. And I'm glad you said that it's not the most important thing, because we go out there like superheroes, we're going to change the world while we're leaving ourselves last. So thank you for saying that it's not the number one priority.
No, and I don't mean to say that in that it's not a priority. It's a very important job. I mean, being a principal and running a school and I think but we put in that role, we put others first more than ourselves, because we have our parents we need to support. We have teachers that have needs. We have students, that's first and foremost, who require tremendous out of effort. And sometimes we forget about ourselves in that mix. And that's, you have to get back to that's what's important. One day this job will end.
Yes.
Either hopefully through retirement, but I mean, you never know.
Absolutely.
And so then what are you left with if all of it is about the work and nothing over here? Then you've given all that, and you have nothing.
Yeah.
And so I would rather have a lot more joy in my life and have fun and float down the river, play my guitar, just spend time just walking in the neighborhood. I mean, I'm very simple, but it's just enjoying that because that's what helps balance the other side.
Yeah.
If I have joy in this side in my life, then I can bring that spirit, enthusiasm to my work.
Yes.
And so it's definitely work-life balance.
Yeah. You gotta our cup being full in order for us to give. Sunset or sunrise?
Sunset.
Dog, cat.
Dog.
Mango, pineapple.
Pineapple.
Pizza, burger.
Burgers.
Beer, wine.
Beer.
Guinness, Corona. None.
Stella.
Okay, this is good. Medium rare or well cooked?
Well put.
Really? Elvis, Michael Jackson.
Oh, there's no king of rock, king of pop, but Elvis all the way. Because if it wasn't for him, there'd be no music.
That wraps up our first exploration at Whispering Oak Elementary. It was a pull to this place, something I couldn't quite name at first, but now I know. Maybe I was mesmerized by the culture, or maybe I stepped into a school led by someone who made a choice to culturize it. And how do we do something like that? One conversation at a time. And I'm glad mine started with Mr. Montgomery, a leader who chose to go first.